Everything is an experiment. Everything is a test. There are no guarantees. Now let's see, what do you suppose is the elder version of that? Possibly something like, everything is an experiment. Everything is a test. There are no guarantees. But probably in the end, everything will turn out the way it's supposed to. That, I think, about captures it. Notice I did not say everything will turn out okay. Notice also that the first two parts were identical. We're going on a journey here. It's not the logical, deductive, I'll believe it when I see it, daylight mind kind of journey. It's more like the float lightly over the seas of the elder mind kind of journey. Because lately, in fact tonight, my mission is to teach about the elder mind, using the elder mind as much as I can, in such a way that it invokes, enkindles, brings up the elder mind that is hardwired in each one of you. That's my mission. And what's going to happen is, all during this talk, there's going to be clues about what the elder mind is. Your job is to collect these clues like you're collecting postage stamps. And with them, assemble the elder mind in your mind. Some assembly required by you. Okay? Two things before we get to the topic at hand. First, an invitation to you to participate in an ongoing experiment. Experiment, the way I'm using the word right now, means do something and see what happens. That's all it is. Do something, see what happens. Obviously, if I don't do the something, I don't get to see what happens. In this case, set an intention to track what the speaker is tracking. Track what the speaker is tracking. Don't track the speaker. Don't track yourself. Don't track the room. Track what the speaker is tracking. The more I am involved with this experiment, the more impressed I am at how incredibly difficult it is to sustain it for any given amount of time. Have you ever been in a circle like this, only bigger, and we're going around the circle and everyone is sharing, perhaps checking in? And instead of paying attention to each guy, instead of paying attention to what each guy is saying, I'm busy planning what I'm going to say when it's my turn. Raise your hand if you've done that. I do that all the time. This discipline is a very challenging discipline. It's very difficult to do that. If I do it enough, you can do it here, you can do it whenever someone presents. If you do it enough, it can become a practice. Because by the same token, the more I'm involved in this experiment, the more I'm impressed by how incredibly fruitful it is. The way, after a while, it tends to bring up or invoke or access the tracking mind, the ancient hunter-gatherer tracking mind. And the more I pay attention to the elder mind, the more those two overlap and have so much in common that I'm forced to conclude that they're one and the same. That the ancient tracking mind, and I'm not talking about the daylight deductive way of tracking, I'm talking about tracking so long in your hunter-gatherer that it goes down to another level of intuition, the way it does with anything. If you do it long enough, it becomes a practice. That mind, that tracking intelligence, is also the elder mind. So when I cultivate one, I cultivate the other. So, the best we can hope for is kind of an oscillation, where we're mindful enough to notice when we get distracted and then come back. Get distracted, notice it, come back. Get distracted, notice it, come back. We can help each other when we get off track. Because if we're all tracking with the speaker tracking, guess what? We're all tracking the same thing. We're tracking as one. And you get to experience what that means like when the entire hunting party is tracking one thing and you're all of one mind. So raise your hand if you're willing to participate in that experiment. Do something, see what happens. And notice when you stop doing it. All right. Number 2. Reflection is key. Reflection is key. And reflection, as I'm using it, means simply revisiting the material. That's what reflection is. Reflection is revisiting the material. This is relevant because what I've noticed, experienced, and observed in teachings is that the teachings expire at the door. When I leave the teaching, it dies. It had the potential to live. It could have gone into my life and made a difference in my life, but it doesn't. It dies right then and there. It's like a seed that needs to be planted and watered and nurtured until it grows into a tree that bears fruit. The teaching bears fruit. It's the fruit of the teaching. The fruit of the teaching are the implications of the teaching. This is why we take notes. This is why I carry around a piece of paper and a pen all the time, because I'm constantly in danger of being taught. And I'm writing notes all the time. Here's another image for the same thing. And I keep using images. I want to use images. I know I'm repeating myself, because images, symbols, metaphor, poetry, art, a soul language. And the elder traffics in soul language. That's another clue. Clue to the elder mind. The elder traffics in soul language. Here it is. The teaching contains smaller teachings inside of it. Each one of those small teachings is a phrase or a sentence written on a piece of paper, pinned to a door, set in a wall. Attending the teaching places me before the door. Walking away without opening it is how it dies. If I open it through this process of reflection, revisiting the material, meditating on it, having a discussion, going forward with it, I see there's a path on the other side leading away. Where it leads. Where does this teaching lead? What are the implications? And then I can take a step on that path. Now this soul-to-soul communication, this soul language, communicates from soul to soul. It bypasses the brain, bypasses the daylight mind. It's instantaneous. It does not require translation or explanation. The daylight mind is going, can you explain this? I don't understand. What's that symbolize? It's busy doing that. But the soul to soul, that's how the elder can communicate with people that he's never met before, because he aims from the soul at the soul. And you can tell that because when I spoke that, you immediately got the images, right? Can anyone describe what that was? You can describe the paper, how it's pinned, the door. What kind of a door is it? Does it have a round top, a square top? Is it wood? Is it painted? What's the wall? Who can describe it? Anybody want to describe it? The image that you had in your mind when I spoke those words.
I just had two people facing each other, and it was more like, this connection.
What about the door? What about the piece of paper? Can anyone else describe what they saw?
I saw the boards with a big Z frame with the door.
Old-fashioned door.
With square, yeah, right.
And that was
All wood.
that was instantaneous. You didn't need any explanation. That went bing bing right there. It's completely without need to translate. I'll give you two examples. Two examples of a phrase or a sentence on a piece of paper that you can reflect on later. This is what you'd be taking notes on. If reflection is revisiting the material, reflection with the elder mind is being revisited by the material. That's another clue about the elder mind. If reflection is revisiting the material, reflection with the elder mind is being revisited by the material. Now, can you sense with your intuition, which is another one of the tools in the elder toolbox, is intuition, that if you did reflect on it, there'd be stuff. Before you even start to reflect, you can go, oh, I can, if I spend 10 minutes thinking about that, stuff is going to come up. You can feel that even before you start to reflect. I call it the iceberg phenomenon. Here's the little teaching, and then you can feel all this down here. It's called being pregnant with meaning. You heard that expression? Pregnant with meaning? That little teaching is pregnant with meaning. I can feel it even before I start to reflect. Because reflection is both top-down and bottom-up. Top-down is everything that comes external. All the books that I've read, the memories of the books that I've read, I look it up on Google, the discussions we've had, all of those are like streams coming in to aid in this reflection. But if in my mind I can brush all of that top-down aside for a second and only receive the bottom-up stuff, that's the stuff that comes strictly from inside, from my own source of creativity, from the part of the creator that's inside everybody, sometimes called ancestral memory. If I get familiar with the elder mind and the elder practice, I can pay more attention to that part, and I can generate the implications from within. Raise your hand if you believe that we have something in us which is the creator or the creative source that's within us. You came in with that belief. No one proved it to you. It can't be proved. It's one of those things, like we call them an axiom. You take it for granted. You just and you can listen to that part. And you can generate the material, and you revisit the material, and you meditate on it, and trying to keep the other stuff away for a second, and only, this is what you get better at. Okay? Second one. The elder is to the people as the wolf is to the dog. Oh my God. Is that pregnant with meaning or what? Can you feel that? We could talk for an hour on that. Do you sense that? I'm reacting that way because I have reflected on that. It's incredible, the implications of that. But you have to take the time, see? That's why you take notes. Because we don't have time to do that right now. We could take the time and reflect now.
Say it again.
The elder is to the people as the wolf is to the dog. Fuck. See this one here? I don't know if you realize it. Has anyone here ever read Iron John, the famous trigger book? But I don't know if you read, and I read a kid version to Ben. I don't know if you realize it, that Iron John is the elder archetype. Elder archetype. He's not the warrior archetype, he's the elder. If you go back and reread Iron John with the idea that Iron John is the elder.
Yeah, because when I first saw it, I thought the Green Man.
Green Man, yeah. All right. Isn't this exciting? So raise your hand if the last 20 minutes of your life has been tasty custard. Raise your hand. And raise your hand if the last 20 minutes of your life have been bitter pill. Okay, now raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand to either one. Because I came here to talk to the tasty custard people. I want to preach to the choir. I want to talk to people who can't get enough of this stuff. I know that when I used to do the boot camp for new dads, I would mention a little bit about a birth experience being an initiatory experience. And these are not, men's movement guys. These are just guys come in, they think they're going to learn how to change a diaper. And I noticed that there's a certain kind of man that when you mention that, this is initiation, we used to have these rites of passage, and there's a certain kind of, like what happened to me is I was electrified by that. When I took, I don't know whether it was an anthro class or whatever, as soon as they start talking about this whole, what is this, initiation, right? I just couldn't get enough. I go, oh my God. And other people, look, I came here to change a diaper. And I understand that stuff. And it's no use trying to bang on that wall. But there are people who just, boom, they go, oh, wow, oh, can I have some more of that? All right, on to the designated topic. Does anyone know what the designated topic is?
Eldering is a way of life.
Eldering is a way of life. Very good. Okay, now we could, that's written on a piece of paper, pinned to a door, set in the wall, and we could reflect on that next week. Or we could reflect on it during the next 5 seconds, if we gave it the time. Let's give it a little bit of time. Let's crack that door. What are the implications? What are the implications of eldering as a way of life? What comes up?
Well, for me, it's personally for me, it's living less in my head and more tracking the invisible.
Okay.
That's the,
What does it mean that it's a way of life?
it means that we live in that consciousness most of the time.
Doesn't it mean that it expands out from the elder meeting? That I'm an elder once a month because I go to the elder meeting, but as a way of life means I figured out how to step out of the elder gathering and into my world and continue to live whatever that is. The possibility that eldering is not just something I do like when I elder someone. Like fatherhood, fatherhood is something I do to my kid. But what if fatherhood was a way of life? What if it was something I did while I did the dishes? That's what's implied by what eldering is a way of life. How would you feel? How would you feel, Kurt, if it turned out to be true that elder skills were life skills, and that in the end, an elder is a way of being in the world? How would you feel if it turned out that was true?
Same as I feel now, I think it is true.
I know, but how do you feel about it?
I
Are you
don't
bummed
know.
out about it? Are you happy? How do you feel about it? You like that being
Energized,
true?
yeah, energized.
What if it turned out? That, by the way, that's another clue. That's an elder perspective when he says, it turns out that it's true. Like in that third one where we said, what do you think is actually going to happen? There's a sense that, what does that mean to feel beyond that wavelength? Not is it true, but how would you feel if it turned out to be true? That's a different way of thinking of it. How would you feel, Sarah, if it turned out to be true that the elder that awaited you in older age And when you finally arrived there, it turned out to be the person would have wanted to be your whole life. How would you feel about that? I finally got there to the last quarter of my life when I stepped into committing, or whatever that means to actually become an elder, and it turns out I would have rather been exactly like that at age 20. How would you feel if that turned out to be true?
Well, I don't know that I would. I'm sort of in the same space as Kurt. It seems to be true that I'm getting in this place of comfort and ease with myself. I can look back and say I probably wanted that when I was younger. But I'm very glad that it is the way it is right now.
See, I can tell you how I feel if I wake up at 66 and find that out. I feel bad. That I arrived and I wished I would have been like that the whole time. Because what did we say? Eldering is like meatloaf rotting in the fridge. It sits there waiting, huh?
I'm going to spin this all around with my mind, but the thing is, if I arrived and found that I was 20, at age 66 or whatever, that I wished I had been this way all my life, then
Yes.
of course I would feel like shit.
Yeah.
But I have no expectation of arriving at that place and wishing it had been different.
Yeah, but you'd also want to talk to a 20-year-old in a different way now.
Well, I feel a sense of relief, like
Yeah.
of completion.
Yeah.
Like that, oh yeah, okay, well, you can kind of come full circle. I don't know, that you haven't lost something.
Yep. Eldering is like meatloaf rotting in the fridge. It's sitting there waiting for me, but I don't notice it until I take it out and it's too late and it's rotten. And I wished I would have eaten it while it was still yummy. All right.
Hey, Stephen, something come up with in the discussion there was, I see this as a series of rooms, and basically we walk from one room to another. We start out with the childhood, and then the adolescence, and then adulthood, then we start moving into that eldership, and each one of those are a room, and we explore each one of those rooms, and then all of a sudden we get to that place, and it's a conscious choice. But that's been my experience, that I make that conscious choice to move to that next room, and now it's elderhood.
Yeah.
And it's also to give back to the younger people.
Yeah. Here's one way to look at it, and there's people in here who've seen this diagram. In a way, it's a line of succession from child to adult. I'm a child for a while, and then I stop being a child, and now I'm an adult for a while. The adult succeeds the child. But apparently, in a lot of the sources that I've investigated, it's not a line of succession from adult to elder. And here's the diagram. This is me before I was born, okay? It may seem strange to think that I had a path before I was born, but there are many, many, many cultures who believe this, that I was doing something before I got here, okay? And then I was born, and it's like a break in continuity. It's a hiatus in my travels. And then I'm a child, okay? And at a certain point, there's another break. This is a traditional place of initiation. And initiation has traditionally been traumatic. It's been a death experience. It's the death and rebirth archetype. The death of the child and the birth of the adult. And I'm imagining in a traditional culture that has intact initiations that they have very little inner child work, because the inner child is slain. And it's my personal belief that the inner child is reborn as the wild man. And this famous wild man is simply the adult version of the inner child. So that when I'm silly, they say, oh, look, he's in touch with his 10-year-old. I can say, no, I'm not regressing to 10 years old. This is a silly adult. I can be an adult and be silly because I have this wild man, his spontaneity and his creativity. It lives on as it's just another way of looking at it. So Michael Meade says, during initiation, the elder within is born. And we're hearing this more and more from other sources, that the elder is created at adulthood. So it's not a line of succession where I'm a child for a while, and then I'm an adult for a while, and then I'm an elder for a while. So that means I got 2 tracks going. Okay? I'm going to call one the elder and one the adult. This is just a way of looking at it, to make sense of it all, to see, to understand how the elder can exist before I get old. Let's call this, and this is the conclusion that I have, let's call this the being, and this is called this the doing. Okay?
But why would it be created at initiation? Why wouldn't it always be there?
Well, there's a whole lot of reasons why intuitively, if the elder is an archetype, then it exists at all levels. And you know, in Robert Moore and the King Warrior Magician Lover talks about the boy warrior versus the adult warrior, and the child version of each one of these adults. And he thinks that there's an initiation for each archetype. That's just his way of looking at it. So in a way, the child is pure elder. When you start learning about what the elder is, the infant has the characteristics of the elder. He just starts to lose them. But when you think about this, you can think about this as being there all along. But what we're doing is separating out into our minds and the being and doing. And there's a lot of literature and work out there and books on eldering that emphasize being. But they're stuck with when you're old. And what they say is that the doing is your adult doing, that's your purpose. Your avocation, what you're here to do. I'm here to be a musician. I have the soul of a musician. My mentor is about doing. The elder is about being. We're just separating this out in our minds. Okay? After a while, I get old and I retire, and this kind of peters out and stops. But this keeps going. And in these books about eldering a lot of time, and then of course the last is death, actual physical death. But in these books where they talk about the elder as being, as I'm done doing, I'm more interested in who I am now. But the way this extends down, it doesn't have to start here, is the elder is relating to these people. And he's emphasizing the being. So while the mentor is helping you be a good architect, or helping you be a cabinet maker, or a lawyer, and he's teaching you how to do that, and you're an apprentice. The elder is saying, yeah, that's great, but what kind of person are you? Because if you want to become an elder, or emphasize, or come from the elder archetype within, you will be more oriented to who the guy is, while he's busy doing. Okay? You're a great cabinet maker, and that's really great, and you're doing a good job, but what kind of man are you? Are you a good man? Are you a generous man? Are you a brave man? That's the orientation of the elder. And you can see that he is talking to you and teaching you, encouraging you to look at that aspect of yourself, because you have a being all along. It's just that sometimes they ignore it. You have a midlife crisis and you say, yeah, I was real successful, I made a lot of money, but you know something, what kind of a man have I become? Slow-mo was like that, right? He says, I became an asshole. He says, I'm trying to live the rest of my life without becoming an asshole again. And therefore what's happening is that the elder is actually encouraging your elder. When you're busy doing, and I'm an elder, and I'm going to come up to you and say, but who are you? Are you happy? How are you going to look back on this? What I'm doing is catalyzing your elder. Because when I start talking about how you're going to look back on this in 20 years, you're going to now look back on it like that. You're going to think about it. You're going to think an elder thought. That's the value of the elder. And he's bringing out the thing that's in you all along that you just haven't paid enough attention to, but he does. And of course, this is not restricted to old age. You have to think about it. All right. Here's one way to look at it. Here's another way to look at it. What we're trying to do is look at it from this way, look at it from this way. Trying to understand what an elder is. Beyond the cliches and stereotypes. We're trying to break out of that. The mentor has become wide and diffuse and almost meaningless. It's a buzzword now. And what I'd like to do is narrow the mentor down to its original essence. Because it's been confused with fatherhood, it's been confused with elderhood. What is really the actual mentoring? Whereas with the eldering has been too narrowed. And I'd like to see it expand out and not be restricted like that. Here's one way to look at it. Let's say that there are 3 branches of the elder tree. Okay? Number 1 is gerontology. Number 2 is elder. I'm calling it elder as dance. Number 3 is elder as practice. Okay? Which one of these do you think is going to be worth the most time in a talk called Eldering as a Way of Life? Which of these 3? I'm going to spend some more time on one than the others.
Not gerontology.
Not
You
gerontology.
can strike that one out, and that's, now it's down between the 2 hard ones.
Elder as dance. Elder as practice. Eldering as a way of life.
Obviously, we will be in practice for the rest
Yes.
of our lives.
Here's a clue, it's this one. All right, so I envision another talk on this one, or even this one. We all know what gerontology is, right? Study of aging, right? I don't know if you've noticed this, but the vast majority of material out there, say 85%, just to put a number on it, that has the word elder in it, is about aging. Books, websites, workshops. What are the stages of a person's life? What is it like to enter the last quarter of your life? Looking back on your life, how can you find value as a senior citizen? Reconciling with your mortality. All these issues that come up when you're old.
Well, the definition of elder is one who is older.
Yeah, well, Robert Bly says, don't be old, be ancient. Don't be old, be ancient. So yeah, let's say if that's true, then it's confining it to that. And breaking out of this, okay? Because if 85% of the material out there with the word eldering in it is about gerontology and aging, what about the 15%? What about the other 15%? What about that? What's that? I mean, we're not saying it's 100%, right? If it's 85% about aging, what about the other 15%? I'm curious about that part. So this is not superficial. I'm 66. This is relevant to me. But I'm still interested in the other stuff. See, confining the elder to age, or even to human beings we call elders. The class of people that's generated by the culture for its own use, they call elders, just like they generated postmen, they generated policemen and plumbers. They generated a class of people called elders. Confining elders to that class or to age is like confining the warrior to the combat soldier. One of the great boons of the early mythopoetic men's movement is freeing the warrior from the war. That we don't have to be ashamed anymore of that part of our masculinity that's called the warrior, because it's an archetype. And that gave us the vocabulary and the understanding to take it out of the realm of war and place it in the average man or woman. That the warrior is now not just about soldiering and things to be embarrassed about, but it's about enduring pain and hardship. It's about serving a cause greater than myself. It's about loyalty. It's about boundaries and recognizing boundaries, all of concern to the average person. Now, of course, this requires a kind of a working understanding of what an archetype is. But suffice it to say, it's hardwired in every person. And we have a vocabulary now. This guy's possessed by the magician archetype. This guy needs more king. This guy is failing to access his lover. All this other stuff. Okay, now once we decide that the elder is an archetype, the same thing happens. Just as the warrior as an archetype is now freed from soldiering and combat and to go into other areas, so does the elder if we do that. You realize? Because there's many archetypes, right? This is the Jungian queen here. There are many archetypes, not just king, warrior, magician, lover. Once you understand what an archetype is, then it pulls it out of that. Very easy. But it's difficult because of the association. I do this all the time. I just keep on thinking of it as being old. And I keep trying to remind myself, no. It's an archetype. There's an association between the elder archetype and age, just like there's an association between the warrior archetype and war. But it's not the same. So just know that associating elderhood with age is a convention. It's a convention. Like in this culture, they put the fork on the left side of the table, and in this culture, they put it on the right. It's a convention. And from the elder viewpoint, which is kind of ironic, from the elder viewpoint, conventions are irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You can see through that. All right. Now, elder as dance versus elder as practice. This is elder as a verb, and this is elder as a noun. Okay? And this is a special kind of verb. It's a transitive verb. Remember what a transitive verb is?
Yeah.
What?
Carries the action from the subject to the object.
Yes, and it's an objective verb. Do they call it that?
What?
A transitive verb has an object.
Has an object.
Yes. A elders B. It's not just eldering, it's eldering something. Okay? Elder as verb, A elders B. Now, B can be one of two things. B could be an individual person. I'm going to elder you. You're going to elder me. I need to consult with my elders. I'm having a hard time. I need to go to the elder clan meeting or the elder council. I feel much better walking through life knowing that I have elders that I can call upon. And a person can elder me. The other B is the community or the culture. The elders the community. Michael Meade says the elder fathers the culture. There's some job that the elder has. He has a special vigilance. He's looking after something on behalf of me and on behalf of the culture. And that the culture is healthier because they have this class of people called the elders that are looking after the thing that elders look after. And unfortunately, we can't spend a whole lot of time on this today. When we do talk about it, we'll talk about the role of the community in co-manifesting the elder. That the elder just can't step in because the community can ignore him and he can just be a useless old man because they've forgotten their part in the dance. This is called the elder dance. The community forgets its part of the dance. They no longer value the elder. They no longer rely on the elder. The elder shrinks in importance because they have a part in the dance. There's the elder child dance and the elder adult dance. The older child dance is passive. Grandfather pats him on the head and he sits him on his lap. And then the elder adult dance requires an interaction between the two. And we can talk about that at length later. The elder as the ultimate safety valve. And his special vigilance that he has, or she has. Because the interesting thing about the elder is, see this reconciles here? There's a thing that happens when I become that part of me. I no longer care about what your profession is. The elder in me feels like calling a doctor by his first name. I have a friend who's a doctor, I call him Dave. No one else calls him Dave. They call him Dr. Don. But when you become the elder, you just feel like you just want to talk, you just want to call him whatever. It's not a disrespect thing, because it just transcends all that. And similarly, you have the men's work over here, and the men are preparing their men gift and everything to the community, and all through life. But what it does is it gives me something to put my finger on and concentrate everything on, because it all generates from that. Now, if you want to add a second practice, it's tracking the invisible. If you put those two together, all of elderhood will be regenerated. Everything that the old man does to benefit the young kid, everything that the elders do, whether I want to consult my elders, this is the preparation for being consulted. Because you operate out of being, not doing. It's not a skill. It's not how to make an arrowhead better. It's about who I am, and I'm not happy in my life, and what should I do, and can you give me some advice? And this prepares for all, if you just do these two, it'll give you the value that you seek as an older person. It will put you into the realm of what everyone else thinks is an elder, even the narrowed part of an elder. Practice of authenticity and the tracking of the invisible. And if you want to add two more, it's elder as archetype.
Which one?
Elder as archetype, which I don't think is even there. And elder as talisman, is that there? No. Nope. The elder as talisman is back in here, the dance. The culture generates a class of human beings that they're going to make into a talisman, a walking, living talisman. And that, of course, presupposes a knowledge of what a talisman is.
Let's write those two on the board.
Huh?
Let's write those two on the board.
Just like the archetype, it helps to understand what an archetype is. And it helps to understand what a talisman is. I want to do a workshop on talismans.
And
It's invisible, you're tracking the invisible.
it's gonna bother me in this experience.
Talisman 2.0. Get the feeling that all the stuff in MKP is like an introduction. And it's been called the next step. What is the next step? What is the next step in my mission statement? What is the next, how do I reevaluate and revisit it? What is the next step in the talisman? Talisman is putting power into an object. How do you do that? Imagine putting it into a human being. A class of human beings as talisman.